water finds the wound at the corner of Halvard's mouth before anything else does. He does not move to wipe it. The guards of Valthorne have formed a tight circle across the flooded courtyard, steel tips leveled, all of them trained on the same spot. On him, behind him, Revna grips the back of his torn cloak, not to steady herself. Her knuckles are pale beneath the torchlight. She is trying not to shake. Thunder moves through the shattered towers. Move away from him. Commander Aldrich's voice carries across the storm like something flat and final. Nobody moves. Halvard registers it all in small pieces. The smell of wet stone and horse sweat. A loose chain somewhere above, clapping rhythmically against a flagpole in the wind. One of the guards on the ground nearby, the one whose wrist Halvard shattered when they rushed him, still clutching it in silence. Not from pride. Pain will do that. Silence it. Revna's breathing stutters against his back. He knows it is not the swords. It is the mark. The one burning through the fabric across his chest. The one she had not seen 4 days ago when she changed the bandages on his side. When there had been nothing there but old scars. Fire scars. Deep and ugly and entirely without explanation. Now silver light pulses beneath his skin. Even through the rain, she can see it. Morveth Thorn descends the palace stairs without urgency. Black boots through shallow water. His guards make room for him, and he does not acknowledge it. That is how men like Morveth move, as though the world rearranges itself around them, and they simply never need to notice. Hours ago this courtyard was filled with music. Halvard remembers it. Nobles carrying wine across marble, silk banners between the towers, the soft steady hum of a kingdom performing itself for important guests. Now half those banners burn against the walls and blood has thinned into the standing water between overturned tables. Morveth stops several feet away. His gaze moves to Revna's hand still knotted in Halvard's cloak. You embarrass your family tonight. Revna loosens her grip immediately. Then Halvard shifts slightly. Not much. Just enough to block Morveth's view of her face. The movement is smaller than a step, and it lands harder than anything said aloud in the last hour. Several guards exchange glances. Morveth's jaw flexes once. You still don't understand what stands behind you, he says. Quieter now. Halvard speaks for the first time. What stands behind me is someone you tried to force. Silence drops across the courtyard like something physical. Revna closes her eyes for half a second. Wrong answer. Morveth smiles. Small. Dangerous. You speak boldly for a stable servant. Lightning tears across the sky behind the palace towers. For one instant, the entire courtyard burns silver. The mark beneath Halvard's skin answers. A low crack spreads beneath the courtyard. Not stone settling. Not the storm. Something underneath them. Ancient and specific and entirely awake. 3 of the older guards step backward. One lowers his sword without realizing it. Raise your blades, Morveth snaps. Nobody obeys fast enough. Rain crashes harder against the stone. Halvard's breathing roughens, not from fear, but from pressure. The silver glow spreads beneath his chest, moving upward like veins finding their way through something broken. Revna stares at it. She remembers the first time she touched that same spot, 4 days ago, when he was barely conscious on a forest road outside the northern gates. She had thought the scars were the story. She had been wrong. Morveth draws his sword. The sound cuts through the storm clean enough to pull every eye in the courtyard. You walk into my hall without a name, he says. You spill blood inside my hands. Now the bloodstone waits beneath the house. He points the blade at Halvard's chest. Tell them who you are. Wind tears across the courtyard. Halvard says nothing. Not because he refuses, because the answer catches. Fragments slam through his head without permission. Flames swallowing a corridor, a crown melting in fire, someone screaming his name through smoke. Not a name anyone has called him since. Not the name he arrived with. His knees begin to give. Revna catches his arm before he falls. The second her hand touches him, another pulse shakes the ground. Stronger than the last. The horses near the outer gates rear violently. One snaps its tether entirely and bolts into the dark. Nobody watches it leave. Morveth's expression hardens. He knows, maybe not everything, but enough. Enough to understand what happens if his men start believing the old stories standing in front of them. Kill him, Morvith says. Nobody moves. The order simply hangs there, between rain and thunder and the sound of men choosing. Commander Aldrich looks toward the cracked palace floor instead. Another sound rises from underground. Long, slow, like something remembering how to breathe. Halvard lifts his head toward the ruined throne hall across the courtyard. His eyes lose focus. Then the memory hits. Not complete, only one piece. A man kneeling in blood beside a burning throne. Silver eyes. The same eyes staring back at him now from the rain puddles between the broken stones. My son. The voice cuts through him so cleanly his breath stops. Morvith sees it happen. And for the first time that night, something uncertain moves across his face. Because Halvard is remembering faster than he should. Another tremor rolls beneath Valthorne. Dust falls from the cracked walls. Somewhere below them, stone breaks open. Then the bloodstone roars. The sound does not stop. Stone dust rains from the broken arches while horses slam against their restraints near the outer gates. Every eye stays fixed on the crack spreading beneath Halvard's boots. The bloodstone pulses again, heavy enough to shake water from the shattered table edges. Aldrich lowers his sword. You lower that blade again, Morvith says without turning, and I remove your hand before sunrise. Aldrich tightens his grip again, but not by much. The guards have stopped pressing forward. They are drifting backward now, boots scraping wet stone, and Revna can hear them whispering. The mark? It cannot be. Vadron's bloodline died years ago. Halvard presses his palm against the side of his head. The courtyard bends strangely around him. Not physically. More like pieces of the night no longer fit together correctly. A child running through this same courtyard. Smaller hands. Smaller footsteps. Someone laughing nearby. The memory vanishes before he can reach it. His breathing roughens. Revna steps closer without thinking. Morvith watches her do it. You still choose him. She keeps her eyes on Halvard. Morvith makes a sound that isn't quite a laugh. Quiet. More like disbelief surfacing. You drag a nameless man into your father's estate. You defend him before the court. Now half my guards can barely hold their swords because they think old ghost stories are standing in front of them. Another step toward her. And still you stand beside him. Revna finally looks at him. Rain catches the gold chain at her throat. The guards are afraid because you are afraid. The courtyard stills. Even Aldrich glances sharply toward her. Morvith's jaw flexes once. Then he smiles again, smaller this time and more dangerous. You think this is fear. He gestures toward the palace behind him. Your father coughs blood into silver bowls while healers run out of ideas upstairs. By tomorrow night he will either breathe because of me, his eyes move to Halvard, or die because of him. Revna's fingers press together slowly at her sides. The words land where Morvith intended. Not because they are cruel, but because they are entirely true. And somewhere above them, inside the eastern tower, metal crashes against stone. A servant screams. Another tremor rolls beneath the palace floor. Morvith watches the cracks spreading through the courtyard stones near the old throne hall. Calculation moves behind his eyes, fast and cold. The situation is changing too quickly. People are beginning to see patterns instead of coincidence. The mark, the bloodstone, the storm, the old stories. He cannot allow sunrise to arrive like this. Seize him, Morvith orders. No one moves. Aldrich swallows. Rainwater drips from his beard. My lord. Morvith turns slowly toward him. He does not raise his voice. He walks directly toward Aldrich until the tip of his sword rests beneath the commander's chin. You wore my family crest long before the stranger crawled into Valthorne. Perfectly calm. Do not forget which side feeds your children. Aldrich's throat shifts once against the blade. The guards around them look away. Not one steps forward, not one steps back. All of them caught. Revna realizes it suddenly. Nobody controls this courtyard anymore. Not Morvith. Not the guards. Not even Halvard. The palace itself feels awake. Watching. Another deep crack echoes underground. Halvard lifts his head sharply toward the ruined throne hall. The memory stays longer this time. Fire racing across black banners. A man forcing open hidden doors beneath the throne. Voices screaming for the gates to remain sealed. Then his father's face. Not angry. Destroyed. Promise me you will never open it. The word slammed through him hard enough to steal the air from his lungs. Open what? He tries to hold on to it. The memory dissolves. Only one thing remains clear. His father had not been afraid of dying. He had been afraid of something else. Something buried beneath this place. Morvith notices the confusion in Halvard's face, and it makes him uneasy. Because there is one truth the kingdom buried with the old king. The Bloodstone does not wake for rulers. It wakes for gates. A freezing gust tears through the courtyard. Several torches die instantly. Darkness swallows half the palace stairs. Then, from somewhere deep below the throne hall, a sound rises through the stone. Not thunder, not collapsing rock. Breathing. Slow, massive, patient. The cracked courtyard floor drops several inches. Stone explodes upward. The entire courtyard lurches violently as the floor drops again. Deeper, throwing guards sideways across flooded stone. One of the palace columns snaps near its base and crashes through an overturned banquet table. Revna loses her balance. Halvard catches her before she hits the ground, and the moment his hand closes around her arm, another pulse tears through the courtyard. Closer, like a heartbeat trapped beneath the palace. Screams rise from the eastern balconies above as servants rush from the shaking towers. Pieces of marble rain into the flooded courtyard below. Morvith steps backward, sword raised now toward the widening fracture splitting through the old throne path. Not fear. Calculation again. The crack stretches directly toward the bloodstone buried beneath the throne hall. Seal the gates, Morvith orders. The guards move. Not toward Halvard, toward the exits. Iron chains rattle as soldiers rush through the storm toward the outer walls. Alarm bells begin sounding across the city beyond the palace. The sound spreads fast. Too fast. Revna can already hear distant voices answering from outside the castle district. The kingdom is waking. A black gap opens through the stone several feet away, deep enough that torchlight vanishes before reaching the bottom. Cold air pours from the dark below the palace. Not normal cold. Wet. Ancient. It carries the smell of burned cedar and something older, the kind of cold that leaves a taste on the tongue. Halvard stares into it. Another memory drags itself upward. Rows of armored men kneeling with lowered heads. A massive stone door beneath the throne hall. His father gripping his shoulders hard enough to leave bruises. You never let them open it. The memory snaps apart. Halvard presses his hand against his chest instinctively. The silver mark burns brighter. Aldrich's face drains slowly beneath the rain. The commander knows something. Not everything, but enough to stop looking at Halvard like a stranger. Morvith follows the direction of Aldrich's stare and understands the danger instantly. Not the crack. Not the bloodstone. The leaf. That is the dangerous thing spreading through this courtyard. The leaf turns frightened men into loyal ones. The leaf resurrects dead kings. Morvith lowers his sword carefully. When he speaks again, his voice carries farther than before. Look at him. The guards hesitate. Look carefully. Rain strikes steel and broken stone. A nameless man arrives in Valthorne. The bloodstone wakes. The palace fractures. The seal begins to crack. His eyes move slowly across every face in the courtyard. You think this is destiny? A tremor answers beneath them. Morvith raises his voice over it. This is infection. The word lands hard. Several guards tighten their grips again. If the old bloodline truly died years ago, then what stands before you now is not salvation. His gaze settles on the glowing mark beneath Halvard's chest. It is the thing King Vadran feared enough to bury beneath his own throne. Silence spreads. Heavy this time. Aldrich looks toward Halvard slowly. Revna feels his certainty breaking apart. Halvard opens his mouth. Nothing comes out, because part of him feels it too. Not just power, recognition. The palace responds to him. The bloodstone responds to him. And something beneath the palace is breathing harder every time it does. Morvith steps closer. You want truth? Quieter now. Almost gentle. Then ask yourself why your father hid you. The words hit harder than the tremors. Revna looks sharply toward Halvard. He does not answer. His silence does, because he has already started wondering the same thing. Not why they attacked his father. Why they sent him away before it happened. Another bell begins ringing beyond the palace walls. Then another. The clans are hearing the alarms. By sunrise, every noble house in the kingdom will know the Bloodstone woke. And if the clans arrive before Morveth controls the story, his eyes flick toward the widening crack. Decision hardens there instantly. Chain him beneath the eastern cells. Aldrich does not move. Neither do the others. Morveth's patience finally cracks. You swore yourselves to House Thorne. And House Thorne swore itself to Valthorne. Aldrich answers before he can stop himself. The courtyard freezes. Rain hammers the stone between them. Revna watches Real danger enter Aldrich's face, not from the palace, but from what he just said aloud. There is no taking those words back. Everyone heard them. Morveth walks toward Aldrich carefully through the rainwater. No rush. No raised voice. That makes it worse. You forget your place, he says. Softly, Aldrich drops to one knee at once. But too late. Everyone heard hesitation inside the loyalty of House Thorne's own commander. That matters more than the gesture now. The crack beneath the courtyard groans again. Part of the throne path collapses entirely into darkness, and from somewhere below the shattered stone, a silver glow begins rising. The light climbs slowly through the gap beneath the courtyard, not rising like fire, floating. Cold strands of pale silver twist upward through the darkness while rain hisses against the broken stone around it. Nobody speaks. Halvard cannot look away. His chest burns harder with every pulse. The mark spreads farther across his collarbone. Silver lines moving like roots finding the surface. Revna sees it clearly when lightning flashes again. So does Morveth. And this time, his control slips for only a second. One small step backward. Aldrich notices. The commander slowly rises from one knee. The silver glow thickens. Then shapes begin moving inside it, not bodies, but reflections. Fragments. The cracked stone around the opening starts showing pieces of another time beneath the surface of the rainwater. Revna sees soldiers kneeling beneath banners that no longer exist. Aldrich sees rows of burning homes beyond northern gates. Morveth sees nothing at first. Then suddenly, his father standing over a blood-covered throne. He jerks his eyes away. The vision disappears. The courtyard breathes again. Hard. Uneven. Halvard stares into the silver light. A hidden chamber beneath Valthorne. His father placing both hands against an enormous black door covered in silver markings. Not alone. A second figure beside him, a woman, dark hair braided with silver rings. Her hand rests against the same door. Not frightened. Grieving. The image fractures before he can see her face. Pain cuts through his skull sharply. He bends forward, catching himself against broken stone. Revna kneels beside him. Rain soaks through her sleeves as she steadies him by the shoulders. Halvard. The sound of his name lands. No uncertainty left inside him. Morveth hears it too. Names stronger. Belief spreads faster than armies. Another tremor rolls beneath Valthorne, deep enough that parts of the eastern wall shed loose stone into the lower streets beyond the palace district. People scream out there. The city is feeling it now. How long before the clans arrive? Morveth turns sharply toward Aldrich. Aldrich hesitates. Too long. Before dawn, he answers quietly. The answer settles heavily. Too close. Not enough time to silence the palace. Not enough time to control what the city has already begun whispering. Morveth's breathing slows deliberately. Thinking. Adjusting. Then his gaze shifts to Revna kneeling beside Halvard in the rain. To her hand on his shoulder. To the way Halvard leans slightly toward her without realizing it. The pressure in Morveth's face changes. Less political now. You choose the stray over your own blood. My father would never kneel to fear. Your father kneels to death already. The words strike cleanly. Revna flinches before she can stop herself. Silence. Only rain. Only the distant bells moving through Valthorne district by district. Morveth sees the wound land. The healers cannot stop the sickness. Quieter. You know that. She says nothing, because upstairs in the eastern tower she has already watched servants carry out bowls stained dark with blood. Because every healer in Valthorne has failed. Because House Thorne alone controls the Blackroot remedy arriving before sunrise from the southern caravans. And Morveth knows she knows it. Halvard slowly lifts his head. What do you want? As if you don't already understand. Lightning rips across the sky again. For one sharp instant, Revna sees the entire truth sitting between them. Not just the throne, not just the bloodstone. Her. Morvith steps closer through the rainwater. You arrived in Valthorne with nothing, he says quietly to Halvard. No name, no memory, no allegiance. His eyes lower briefly toward Revna's hand. And now the kingdom fractures around you. The silver glow pulses harder. The crack widens another inch. A low sound rises again from deep below the throne hall. Not breathing now. Something else. Waiting. Halvard pushes himself upright through the pain. Rain drips from his dark hair into his eyes. You think chaining me will stop this? Morvith studies him for a long moment. No. His gaze shifts toward the crack. I think killing you might. Revna's fingers tighten instantly around Halvard's sleeve. Aldrich looks sharply toward Morvith. Several guards freeze outright. Because this is no longer arrest. No longer politics. No longer rumor. Morvith Thorne has just spoken treason against the bloodline of Valthorne aloud in front of witnesses. And beneath the palace, the thing breathing in darkness exhales. The exhale rolls upward through the shattered courtyard like heat from an open furnace. Not loud. Heavy. The sound drags across stone and bone at the same time. Several guards stumble backward. One drops his sword entirely. It clatters across flooded stone before vanishing into the widening crack beneath the throne path. Nobody reaches for it. The silver glow flickering upward through the fracture catches the side of Halvard's face. For one sharp instant, he looks exactly like the king. Aldrich sees it. The older guards see it. Even Morvith sees it. That realization settles into the courtyard harder than fear. Halvard takes one slow step toward the crack. Revna catches his wrist. His skin burns against her palm. Not fever. Something else. The silver mark pulses once beneath torn fabric. The crack answers. Do not go near it, Morvith says sharply. Halvard turns toward him. You know what's down there. Morvith says nothing. That silence says enough. Another tremor shakes the courtyard violently. A section of balcony crashes from the upper palace wall and explodes across the lower steps in wet dust and splintered marble. Halvard pulls Revna closer without thinking. Debris strikes the ground beside them. The movement happens before thought. Morvith watches it. Something colder enters his face. Above the storm, another bell begins ringing from the western district. Then another answers farther away. The clans are moving. My lord, if the northern clans reach the gates before dawn, Aldrich says carefully, they will hear what I tell them to hear. The certainty in Morvith's voice cracks slightly, because nothing inside this courtyard belongs fully to him anymore. Not the guards, not the bloodstone, not even the fear. Halvard looks toward the broken throne hall. The silver glow beneath the crack thickens, and suddenly the memory returns whole. Not fragments. Everything. Flames consuming the royal hall. Smoke so thick it turns the air black. Young Halvard struggling against armored hands dragging him backward through hidden tunnels beneath the palace. His father kneeling before the massive sealed door underground. King Vadrin's crown already melting in the heat around him. And beside him, the silver-eyed woman from the earlier memory. Blood running from her mouth. One hand pressed against the ancient markings on the door. Seal it now, she whispers. The walls shake violently. People scream outside. The hidden tunnel behind young Halvard fills with smoke. He tries running toward his father. Strong hands pull him back. Then King Vadrin turns toward him. Not like a king. Like a father watching his child drown. If the seal breaks, Vadrin says, voice tearing apart beneath the roar around them, they will use our blood to open the gate. The memory fractures. Halvard staggers backward into the rain. Revna catches him before he falls. His breathing turns uneven. Not confusion anymore. Recognition. You remember. The words come quietly. Dangerously quietly. Halvard lifts his eyes toward Morvith. Rainwater streams down his face while the storm tears through the courtyard. You murdered him. Silence. Even the bells outside seem distant suddenly. Morvith's expression does not change. But Aldrich's does. He looks sharply toward Morvith, then toward Halvard, then toward the widening crack. Pieces connecting too fast. Your father sealed innocent people behind the northern gates, Morvith says coldly. Do not speak of murder to me. Another memory flashes through Halvard instantly. Burning villages beyond locked gates. Civilians pounding against iron while soldiers held the barricades shut. Smoke swallowing entire streets. His father standing above the walls refusing to open them. Not because he wanted them dead, because opening the gates would have allowed something else inside. Halvard's stomach tightens. The memory does not lessen the horror. It deepens it. Revna feels the shift in him. His silence changes. He is no longer fighting only Morveth. He is fighting what his father became before the end. You think blood alone makes a ruler? Morveth steps closer through the rain. Your father sacrificed half the north to keep that thing buried beneath Valthorne. The crack pulses silver again. A low growl rolls upward from the darkness below. And when the clans learn the truth, Morveth lowers his voice. They will not kneel to you. Halvard does not answer, because part of him already knows it. The old king protected the kingdom, and destroyed part of it doing so. That stain never left Valthorne. Aldrich looks toward Halvard again, not with fear, with uncertainty. That hurts more. A sharp cough echoes from the balcony above them. Wet, violent. A servant stands frozen beneath the eastern tower archway, hands dark with blood. The Lord. The servant chokes out toward Revna. He cannot breathe. Revna's face drains. Morveth turns toward her slowly. No triumph. No smile. That makes it worse. The Blackroot caravan reaches Valthorne before dawn, he says. Without it, your father dies before sunrise. The storm crashes harder around them. Below the palace, the thing beneath the seal breathes again. And for the first time that night, Revna lets go of Halvard's hand. Her fingers slip from his slowly. Rainwater runs through the space left behind. Neither of them moves. Morveth watches, not pushing, waiting. That patience cuts deeper than pressure. Revna turns toward the eastern tower. Halvard sees the movement. Something inside his chest tightens harder than the mark burning beneath his skin. Because he understands now. Not the throne, not the bloodstone, the choice. Morveth steps closer through the rain. The Blackroot arrives before dawn. The southern caravans answer only to House Thorn. Revna says nothing. Her breathing turns shallow. Aldrich looks away completely. Time narrowing. Every second tightening around all of them. Halvard wipes rain from his face slowly. If she agrees, his voice is rough. You save him. No. The answer comes instantly. Cold and clean. Revna looks sharply toward Morveth. I send the remedy. He holds her gaze. The difference matters. It does. Because medicine can arrive too late. Because promises break easier than vows. The servant above them coughs again into blood-stained hands. Revna closes her eyes for one brief second. Just one. When she opens them, the fear inside has changed shape. No longer fear for herself. Halvard watches it happen. And suddenly another memory tears upward through him. Not flames this time. Quiet. A child beside a river beneath silver leaf trees. Young Halvard looks up toward the woman with braided dark hair beside him. She places a small carved wolf into his hand. You cannot save everyone, she tells him softly. The child shakes his head immediately. I will. The woman smiles. Not because she believes him. Because she wishes it were true. The memory vanishes. Pain flashes through Halvard's skull. Revna notices. You're bleeding. He touches beneath his nose. Dark blood stains his fingers. The silver mark pulses harder. Morveth sees it. And behind the calculation in his face, fear flickers. The thing beneath Valthorne is waking faster now. What happens if the seal breaks? Halvard asks. Nobody answers immediately. Rain fills the silence. Far below the palace, a sound rises from the darkness. Not breathing this time. Movement. Massive. Ancient. The north dies first. Aldrich looks sharply toward Morveth. The words came too fast. Too honest. What is beneath this palace? You're asking the wrong question. Another tremor slams through the courtyard. One of the remaining pillars near the throne stairs collapses, exploding into stone dust across the rain-soaked ground. The silver glow beneath the crack surges upward suddenly. And for one horrifying second, a giant shadow moves beneath the light. Not human. Too large. Revna steps backward into Halvard without thinking. The guards recoil. One begins praying under his breath. Aldrich grips his sword, so hard his knuckles go white. The shadow disappears beneath the shifting silver. But the silence afterward changes everything. Because now they all know. Not legend, not politics. Something alive waits beneath Valthorne, and Halvard's blood is tied to it. Morveth turns toward Revna one final time. The clans arrive before sunrise, he says quietly. When they learn the seal weakens, they will demand the heir's death before the gate opens. Halvard hears the word clearly. Gate. Not tomb. Not prison. Gate. Another secret sliding loose. Revna hears it too. Her eyes move slowly toward the shattered throne hall above the courtyard. Then toward Halvard. Rainwater runs down his face and torn clothes. Blood still stains his fingers. The silver light glows beneath his skin. He looks exhausted, wounded, alone, and still standing between the kingdom and whatever waits below it. The realization hurts, because if Morveth speaks truth, saving Halvard may destroy Valthorne, but sacrificing him may destroy what remains of her. Revna steps away from him slowly, not toward Morveth, toward the eastern tower stairs. Halvard watches her go without stopping her. That hurts worse. She reaches the first broken stair before speaking. Very quietly. If the remedy comes, her voice nearly disappears beneath the rain. My father lives. Yes. She nods once. Small, barely visible. Then she begins walking toward Morveth through the storm. And beneath the palace, the silver glow suddenly turns red. The red floods upward through the crack, so suddenly that every guard recoils at once. Not glowing, bleeding. The color spreads through the silver like blood into water, twisting violently beneath the shattered courtyard stones. Revna stops mid-step. Morveth's face changes. For the first time that night, real fear. Not political fear. Not fear of losing power. Ancient fear. The broken courtyard stones vibrate beneath their feet. Rainwater near the crack trembles in uneven circles. Below them, the breathing sound deepens into something heavier. Halvard stares at the red light rising from below. Another memory slams into him hard enough to nearly drop him to one knee. The sealed chamber again. Smoke. Heat. King Vadrin dragging a blood-covered blade across his own palm before pressing it against the black door. The silver-eyed woman screaming his name. Then, young Halvard hidden behind stone pillars, watching soldiers force chained prisoners toward the chamber entrance. Not enemies. Villagers. Men and women from the northern districts. Terrified, Vadrin closes his eyes once before speaking. Forgive me. The black door opens. Screaming fills the chamber. The memory tears apart. Halvard doubles over, blood hitting rain-soaked stone beneath him. Halvard. Revna turns back. Morveth grabs her wrist before she reaches him. You touch him again, he says quietly, and you condemn your father. She jerks against his grip. He does not release her. The red light pulses harder. Every torch surrounding the courtyard extinguishes at once. Darkness crashes across the ruined palace. Only the red glow remains. The guards look at Halvard now not like a prince, like a wound opening. Aldrich steps between Morveth and the widening crack. My lord, we need to evacuate the lower halls. No. The eastern foundations are collapsing. No one leaves. Now Aldrich understands. Morveth is no longer protecting the palace. He is containing it. Another tremor rips through Valthorne. Beyond the walls, screams rise through the storm. A tower bell collapses with a deep metallic crash. The city is breaking apart with the seal. You knew. Revna stares at Morveth. You knew this would happen if he returned. Morveth says nothing. That silence confirms everything. Halvard slowly lifts his head from the blood-stained stone. The red glow reflects in his eyes now. Not silver anymore. Something darker flickers there. You used me. No. Morveth looks at him. I needed you. Aldrich's face tightens with realization. Not confusion. Betrayal. You sent the attack party. Morveth does not deny it. You slaughtered his escort. I separated him from the clans before they found him. Cold. Immediate. The moment the Bloodstone sensed his blood again, the seal began weakening. If the northern houses reached him first, they would have crowned him before understanding what the throne protects. Halvard's breathing roughens. The fragments finally connect. The ambush, the lost memory, the road leading back to Valthorne. None of it accidental. You think your father sent you away to save your life. Lightning rips violently across the storm above the palace. He sent you away because the gate answers only to his bloodline. The words crush the remaining silence. Revna looks slowly toward Halvard. Aldrich does the same. Even the guards stop retreating, because now the truth changes shape again. The heir was not hidden from enemies. He was hidden from the kingdom itself. Another memory forces upward, this one clearer. Young Halvard screaming while soldiers drag him through underground tunnels. King Vader kneeling before him one final time. Hands shaking, ash covering his face. If the seal weakens, his father whispers, they must never let you return. No farewell, no embrace, only terror. Halvard slowly straightens despite the blood running from his nose and mouth. Rain pours down his torn clothes while the red glow stains the entire courtyard crimson. His father sacrificed thousands, exiled his own son, buried the truth, and Morveth preserved the lie to keep the seal intact. No clean hands remain in Valthorne. Revna sees it in Halvard's face. The moment hope fractures. That hurts more than the storm. Below the palace, the breathing suddenly stops. Every sound in the courtyard dies with it. No bells, no rain, no movement, just silence. Then a massive impact slams against the underside of the sealed chamber beneath them. The entire courtyard jumps. Stone explodes upward through the crack. Something begins climbing toward them. Stone erupts from the crack in a violent burst. Guards scatter as broken marble explodes across the courtyard. One soldier near the edge disappears screaming into the widening fracture before anyone can reach him. The scream cuts off too abruptly. Then the hand appears. Not flesh. Blackened stone shaped like bone drags itself over the shattered edge of the courtyard floor. Massive, cracked, burning red light through the fractures inside it. Another hand follows. The entire palace groans. Revna stumbles backward as the thing below begins pulling itself upward from the darkness. Its shoulders scrape the sides of the broken chamber as it rises. Stone peels away around it while ancient silver chains snap, one by one across its body. Not chains meant to restrain, chains fused into it. Halvard stares at the creature without moving, and suddenly he recognizes it. Not from memory, from blood. The same feeling that pulled him toward the Bloodstone now pulls toward this thing. The creature lifts its head slowly through the rain. No eyes, only hollow black sockets glowing deep red from inside. Its chest is carved open by enormous silver markings burned directly into stone flesh. A seal, not decoration. One of the guards begins crying quietly. Another drops to his knees praying. The creature exhales once. Lightning crashes directly into the shattered throne hall, blowing apart the remaining ceiling in an explosion of fire and stone. The entire palace shakes. Beyond the palace walls, the clan horns begin sounding. They have arrived. Morveth hears it. Time gone. Control gone. Everything narrowing at once. The creature's head slowly turns toward Halvard. Not toward Morveth. Not toward the guards. Toward him. The red glow beneath Halvard's skin burns violently now, spreading across his throat and jawline in branching patterns. Pain hits him hard enough to stagger. Another memory tears upward. The sealed chamber beneath Valthorne. King Vadrin screaming as silver chains drive themselves into the creature's chest while the black gate strains open behind it. The silver-eyed woman collapsing beside the seal. And young Halvard, watching the creature kneel before him. Not attacking. Kneeling. The memory vanishes. The creature takes another step upward from the shattered chamber. Every movement cracks stone beneath its weight. Morveth draws his sword. Aldrich grabs his arm. My lord. If it reaches the gate, the seal falls entirely. Revna looks sharply toward the darkness beneath the creature. Past the broken stone. Past the red glow. Far below. Something enormous moves behind the partially open black door. Not the creature. Something worse. The realization strikes cold through her chest. This thing climbing upward is not the danger. It is the lock. The creature turns toward Halvard fully now. Then slowly, painfully it kneels. The entire courtyard freezes. Rain crashes around them while the massive stone creature lowers its head before the lost heir of Valthorne. Not worship. Recognition. Aldrich stares at Halvard in horror. Morvith's grip tightens around his sword, because now every remaining doubt dies. If the creature obeys him, the gate beneath Valthorne may open for him too. The creature's cracked jaw opens slowly. Its voice sounds like mountains breaking apart. Air. The single word shakes the courtyard walls. Halvard steps backward instinctively. The creature lifts one giant stone hand toward him, not attacking, offering. Something rests inside its palm. A crown. No, part of one. Half-melted silver twisted around a blackened core stone. King Vadrin's crown. The same crown Halvard watched melting in the fire. Revna looks toward him immediately. Rain pours down both of them while the creature kneels between the broken palace stones. Halvard. He looks at the ruined crown, then toward the red darkness beneath the gate, then toward Morvith, everything tightening together at once. His father sealed the gate with blood. Morvith protected the seal through lies and murder. And now the kingdom waits outside the palace walls, demanding an heir they would kill if they knew the truth. Heir. It growls again. Choose. The word lands heavily across the ruined courtyard. Then the creature slowly turns its hollow gaze toward the gate beneath the palace. And the black door below Valthorne begins opening from the inside. The black door moves another inch. Stone screams beneath the pressure from the other side. Every torch in the throne hall dies. Darkness swallows the courtyard, except for the violent red glow bleeding upward from below Valthorne. The creature trembles hard enough to crack the palace floor beneath it. Not from rage, from strain. It is holding the door shut. Barely. Halvard stares into the widening darkness below and hears breathing. Not one breath. Many. Slow. Waiting. Revna reaches for his arm without looking away from the gate. Her fingers stop just before touching him. The heat pouring from his skin forces her hand back. Morvith steps forward through the rain, sword raised. If the gate opens fully, Valthorne dies before dawn. The words scrape out of him like confession. Another violent impact slams against the black door. The entire courtyard jerks sideways. Silver chains stretch across the darkness and begin snapping one by one. The sound echoes through stone like bones breaking inside a tomb. No, Albert barely holds himself together. The creature lifts the broken crown higher in its stone hand. Rainwater runs down the melted silver edges. Inside the broken metal sits a dark crystal, shaped almost like a heart, still beating faintly. Revna notices it first. The same pulse beneath the crown matches the glow beneath Halvard's skin exactly. Morvith notices too. You cannot take it. For the first time, the old regent looks exhausted instead of dangerous. That crown is not a symbol, he says quietly. It is the lock. Lightning tears across the sky. The black door below shifts wider. A long claw slides briefly through the opening before silver fire burns it backward into the darkness again. Several guards scream. One drops a spear and runs toward the palace stairs. He never reaches them. A shadow lashes from the crack beneath the gate and tears him downward into the darkness. The scream echoes once, then silence. Blood rains upward briefly before vanishing into the storm. Nobody moves. The clan war horns continue sounding beyond the walls. Thousands gathering in the rain, demanding a king. And beneath them all, the gate continues opening. Revna grabs Halvard's wrist hard enough to stop him from stepping forward. You already know what it wants. Her voice shakes despite the force behind it. He does. Fragments continue pressing through him. The silver-eyed woman kneeling beside the gate. His father placing the crown into living fire. Blood running across stone symbols. And one final sentence spoken directly toward young Halvard. Not when you are strong. When you are willing. The memory disappears. Halvard's jaw tightens. Morvith sees it happen. You remember now. The creature suddenly roars in agony. One of the giant silver chains explodes apart violently. The black door beneath the palace opens another hand width. Cold air pours upward from the abyss below. Not natural cold. Dead cold. The kind that empties sound from the world. Every torch goes dark again. Even the rain seems quieter. Then footsteps echo from inside the gate. Slow. Measured. Human. Revna's grip tightens around Halvard's wrist instinctively. The sound of metal dragging across stone rises slowly from below. Morvatha's face empties completely. He heard it once before. The Night King Vadran died. The creature turns sharply toward Halvard again. Its cracked voice breaks apart under the strain. Choose now. Another chain snaps. The gate widens, and through the darkness below, a pair of silver eyes opens. The silver eyes remain inside the darkness beneath Valthorne, watching, unmoving. Halvard's hand closes slowly around the ruined crown inside the creature's palm. The instant his skin touches the black crystal at its center, the entire palace trembles once. Not violently, deeply, like something ancient beneath the kingdom exhales for the first time in years. The silver-eyed figure beyond the gate stops moving. The creature lowers its massive head farther, stone grinding against stone. Waiting, Revna watches Halvard. Not the gate, not the creature. Him. Rainwater runs down his face, carrying blood from the cut along his brow. The red glow beneath his skin flickers unevenly now, weaker than before. Human again, or closer to it. The black door strains wider another inch. A sound escapes from the darkness beyond it, not rage. Hunger. The sound moves across the courtyard like cold fingers pressed against exposed skin. Several guards drop to their knees. Halvard steps toward the gate. Revna catches his wrist. Not hard. Just enough. His movement stops. For a moment neither of them speaks. The storm crashes around them. The creature continues kneeling nearby beneath broken chains and falling rain. Her fingers tighten slightly around his wrist. A small movement. Barely there. But Halvard feels it. The same hand that pulled him from the forest floor when he remembered nothing. The same hand that stood between him and execution inside this courtyard. The same hand now refusing to let him walk into darkness alone. His jaw tightens once. Then slowly he pulls free. Not rough. Not gentle either. Necessary. Revna does not try to stop him again. That hurts worse. Halvard walks toward the gate while silver light pulses faintly from the ruined crown in his hand. Morvath lowers his sword fully. Rain strikes the steel in slow, uneven taps. You were never meant to rule the kingdom, he says quietly. Halvard stops near the edge of the broken stone. The darkness below shifts. The silver eyes remain fixed on him. Morvath's voice nearly disappears beneath the storm. You were meant to guard it. Silence settles afterward. No argument comes. No denial. Only rain. Halvard looks down into the widening gate. Fragments of memory continue pressing through him now without violence. His father kneeling beside the seal. The silver-eyed woman placing the crown into the fire. Young Halvard crying while someone carried him away from the burning palace. Not to save the throne. To save the bloodline tied to the gate. The truth lands quietly inside him. Not like revelation. Like weight finally finding its place. Behind him, clan banners continue gathering beyond the shattered walls. Thousands waiting for a king. A throne. A crown. They still do not understand the kingdom nearly died, protecting them from what sleeps beneath it. Halvard closes his fingers tighter around the ruined crown. The black crystal cuts into his palm. Blood slides across the broken silver edges. The gate reacts at once. The silver eyes in the darkness narrow. The creature beside the throne hall groans painfully as the remaining chains across its body begin glowing white-hot again. Not opening now. Closing. The realization spreads silently across the courtyard. Morvath bows his head. Not to a king. To a burden. Halvard steps closer to the gate until heat and cold collide violently around him. The darkness beyond shifts once more. Something enormous moves deeper below. Waiting. Still there. Always there. Revna watches him from the rain-soaked courtyard without speaking. Her throat moves once. Nothing comes out. There are no words left that do not wound something. Halvard kneels slowly at the edge of the seal. The same position his father once held. The ruined crown trembles faintly in his hand. Then he presses it into the stone. Silver fire explodes across the ancient markings beneath the palace floor. The black door shudders violently. The silver eyes beyond it finally disappear backward into the dark. One by one, the broken chains around the creature seal themselves again with sharp bursts of light. The creature lowers its head fully to the stone. Still, the storm above Valthorne weakens gradually, not ending, just farther away now. Halvard remains kneeling beside the gate long after the light fades. Blood drips slowly from his palm onto the ancient seal. Revna takes one step toward him, then stops, because she understands now. If he rises from that place completely, the gate may rise with him. The broken throne behind them sits empty beneath the rain. Half the palace burned, half the kingdom waiting outside the walls. And at the center of it all, Halvard stays kneeling before the sealed darkness beneath Valthorne, one hand pressed against the ancient stone, the other empty, while dawn slowly begins touching the ruined courtyard in pale gray light.